Imagine this. While the world was still at war, while bombs were still falling, while millions were still dying, a group of men met in secret and quietly decided how money would work for the rest of human history. No vote, no public debate, no permission, just power concentrated in one room. July 1944. Inside a remote mountain hotel in New Hampshire, 730 delegates from 44 nations gathered. But here's the truth no one tells you. Most of those nations had no real power. Some were still colonies, some were bankrupt, some were desperate just to survive. So the real question is, was this a global agreement or a carefully controlled takeover? Because what was decided in that room still controls your money today. To understand the meeting, you have to understand the fear. The world economy had already collapsed once before, the Great Depression. Banks failed across continents. Over 9,000 banks collapsed in the United States alone. Global trade dropped by more than 60%. Millions lost jobs. Families lost everything. And here's the terrifying part. That economic collapse helped fuel extremism and eventually World War II. So by 1944, leaders were not just worried about money, they were afraid of another collapse, triggering another global disaster. This wasn't just about economics, this was about control, survival, and power. So behind closed doors, they decided something radical. They would rebuild the entire global financial system from zero. But who would control that system was the real battle. The location was not random. Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Remote, isolated, controlled. The Mount Washington Hotel. A luxury resort turned into a financial war room. Over 700 delegates stayed inside. Weeks of negotiations, endless documents, arguments stretching late into the night. Smaller countries sat quietly, watching, listening, because they knew something. They were present, but they were not in control. Real decisions were being shaped by just a few men, and at the center of it all, two forces moving in opposite directions. At the heart of the battle, John Maynard Keynes. A man so influential, his ideas shaped modern economics itself. He came with a bold vision, a global currency called the Bancor, not owned by any nation, not controlled by any power, a system designed to prevent domination, to force balance, to stop countries from gaining too much control. But there was a problem. Britain was collapsing. By 1944, Britain was nearly bankrupt. It owed massive debts, especially to the United States. And Keynes knew something terrifying. If Britain failed here, it would lose its global influence forever. Now on the other side, Harry Dexter White. Quiet, strategic, ruthlessly effective, representing the United States. And he didn't come to share power, he came to secure it. Because the United States held the ultimate advantage, gold. Around 70% of the world's gold reserves sat inside U.S. vaults. Let that sink in. While the world was destroyed, America held the money. So this was never a fair negotiation. It was power disguised as cooperation. And here's a detail most people don't know. Years later, Harry Dexter White would be accused of secretly passing information to Soviet intelligence, meaning one of the architects of the global financial system may have had hidden loyalties, which raises a chilling question. Who was really shaping the system? The final agreement looked simple, but it was one of the most powerful systems ever created. Every country would tie its currency to the US dollar, and the US dollar would be tied to gold. $35 per ounce. Stable, predictable, controlled. But beneath that simplicity was a masterstroke. Because if every currency depends on the dollar, then every economy depends on the United States. Trade? Through the dollar. Reserves? Held in dollars. Global trust? Built on the dollar. This wasn't just a system, it was a financial empire. Keynes saw it clearly. He warned them. He pushed for limits on surplus countries like the US. He wanted penalties for imbalance. But he lost, because countries needed loans, and the United States controlled access to money. So quietly, the world agreed to a system centered around one nation. And in that moment, global financial power shifted permanently. Out of Bretton Woods came two institutions that would shape global economics forever: International Monetary Fund and World Bank. On the surface, they were helpers: provide loans, stabilize currencies, support struggling nations. But look deeper, they enforced the system. Because when countries needed money, they had to follow conditions: economic reforms, policy changes, spending controls. And those conditions aligned with the system created in 1944. So the power wasn't loud, it wasn't obvious, it was structured, quiet, systematic control. The entire system depended on one promise: that the United States could always convert dollars into gold. But something changed. The US began spending more. Cold War tensions, military expansion, global influence. More dollars entered the system, but gold reserves did not grow at the same pace. By the 1960s, the world held more dollars than the US had gold to back, and countries started noticing. France, under Charles de Gaulle, began demanding gold. Others followed. Pressure built. Because if too many countries demanded gold at once, the entire system would collapse overnight, and suddenly, the illusion of stability started breaking. A moment that shocked the world. The United States made a decision. It would no longer convert dollars into gold. No warning, no negotiation, just a sudden announcement. The gold standard was over. The foundation of Bretton Woods, gone. Currencies began to float. Markets became unpredictable. Chaos returned. But here's the twist no one expected. The dollar didn't fall. It survived. Because by then, it had already taken over the system. There was no real alternative. And that is the real secret. A system designed in 1944 by a small group of powerful men still shapes your reality today. Your currency, your economy, your cost of living, all connected to that moment. A moment you were never part of, a decision you never voted for. And here's the question that should stay in your mind. If a handful of people in one isolated room could design the global financial system once, what's stopping it from happening again, right now, somewhere else, quietly, while the world is being distracted?